Hello.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, how
Hi.
are you?
Good. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Her name. Oh,
Hi,
go
my name's
ahead.
Angie.
Okay. And then it's Theo is the puppy, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
And just a heads up, we've been recording all our sessions
Mhm.
because it's going to be a lot of information that you might forget stuff. And we just posted the YouTube, and I'll just put the dog's name, like it'll be Theo, and I put like a little brief description of what we cover. So if you ever forget anything, you just go refer to that.
Oh, cool.
And then any other questions, you can always reach me by email as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you had Theo for now?
About a month and a half.
And how's that going?
I think it's going really well.
We love him.
overall. Yeah.
Okay. How's the potty training?
Significantly better over the last week, it seems.
Okay.
Yeah, he's by my mom's today. That's why I asked Maria if we needed him present for the session.
Sure.
'Cause we were both working yesterday, but she said that like this morning he scratched on like the back door, and then when she didn't notice, he like ran to the laundry room and scratched on that door then, and then he relieved himself afterwards. So he hasn't had an accident in like a week.
Okay. How's crate training?
I started working on it after I watched one of your videos with I don't remember, it was with another couple, but they had a dog and you were recommending to put him in there after like when they started looking suspicious, and then keep
Sure.
it at like 2 hour mark or something so that he learns to hold it.
Right.
And also with the concern of
Separation anxiety.
separation anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started working on that like a couple weeks ago, and he's a little bit better. He's more like he feels more comfortable with the crate. He'll go in there now. You don't have to like push him in there or anything. Like you put him by it, and he'll just walk in there and lay down, kind of thing.
Sure.
But I still feel like it's kind of a hit or miss. If you walk out of his sight, he'll still like whine until you know for a couple minutes. It's not like too bad, but like definitely like he wants people to know that he's there.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Yeah. So we'll make sure to cover that so that applies to Theo.
mhm.
But I'm glad that you started that because it already gives you how do you say, a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because the longer people avoid the crate or the kennel, the harder it is to get the dog over it or the puppy over it down the line. So like most people when they get a puppy, a lot of times it's kind of like mi casa, su casa type of deal,
Mhm.
and it's all this freedom, and then how do you say freedom, and the dog has no boundaries,
Yeah.
and then they start to see kind of like the repercussions of that, and then they're like, okay, now we have to fix this, but now it's even harder because the dog's used to that lifestyle,
Mhm. I think
right?
we started out like that, to be completely honest with you, because he was
Sure.
cute. He's a little puppy. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
kind of
can
thing.
be biased.
Almost everybody does it, so it's fine. So the good thing is you're starting still early,
Mhm.
and I'm known for coming in post problems. So like even if there was an issue, like we can fix it. But ideally, prevention is always the best. Okay. So we're gonna just do a quick kind of overview of the potty training, just so that we're clear on that. And at the end of the day, I like to give people options because as we discuss certain things, you may not be comfortable with them in the beginning, okay?
Mhm.
Until you start to see that the approach may not work, and then it kind of opens you up to other approaches, okay?
Mhm.
Because I've trained many a puppy in my life, and it's hard because they're cute, right? And they're small, and they're like these little teddy bears or whatever. Um, but at the end of the day, it's still a dog, and the mother dog would treat them very differently than humans do. Like we have sympathy and compassion. We think they're adorable, right? So that kind of softens us to them. But for the mom, if they step out of line, she just bites them.
Mhm.
She doesn't look at them and adore them and go, "You're so cute." Like, if they annoy her, she just bites them. And it's hard for people to correct their puppies because they look so cute. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but we'll go through all these things. So with the potty training stuff, um, my recommendation is you don't train him to tell you when he's got to go.
Mhm.
Okay. because he's not associating that scratching the door means to pee.
Hmm.
He's actually associating it means outside. And what can happen is he'll start to abuse it. Whenever he wants to go outside, he's going to scratch the door.
Yeah.
And I have puppies that will fake, I kid you not, fake pee when they go outside. Okay, I actually just did a Skype call or a Zoom call to another client, and they say in the video, because I told them this, and they're like, "Yeah, our dog does that." And I'm like, "Yep." I'm like, so they learn to play a game. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you don't see him scratch the door, he's gonna pee right there, right? Because he's like, "Hey, I told you, I scratched the door. You didn't see me. I gotta go." Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important that we teach them to hold it and put them on a schedule, as opposed to going when they have to go, which is when you noted that when you see the puppy look suspicious, put them in the kennel as
Yeah.
opposed to letting them out, is actually for this specific purpose. Okay. So Theo is 3.5 months.
3.5 months. Yeah.
Okay. So technically, he's capable of holding it for 3.5 hours. So the general rule of thumb is an hour per month is what they're able to hold it for when they're awake and active. Okay.
Yeah.
But if he's not been put on a schedule yet, then I would say he can hold it for up to 2 hours. So that's always like the bare minimum. Okay. So let's say it's a Saturday, you're going to be home all day. Um, you get up at 8 or 7:30, you run them out real quick, you feed them, you give them some water, and 8 o'clock, you would run them out again because puppies typically have to go 15 to 30 minutes after eating and drinking. And then, so that was at 8 a.m. So the next outing would be at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10 or before bed, right? There's going to be exceptions to that, but that's the general layout for the day. So if I take him at 8 a.m. and Theo pees and poops, I know he's clear, right? Because typically puppies poop in the morning and they'll poop in the evening and sometime midday. So I know he's clear that he gets freedom in the home with me, okay, where I can keep an eye on him. At 9:30, like you had mentioned earlier, if he looks suspicious, maybe he's sleeping by you and he gets up and like walks towards like a hallway, or tries to go like in a more secluded area, chances are he's going to go potty, or he's going to like maybe let you know or something at the door. Instead of letting him out, I would put him in the kennel for those last 30 minutes. Okay, making sure that he holds it for that 2 hour time span, and then I would run him out. He pees. He probably won't have to poop. I would bring him back in, and then I reset my clock again, and I'm just keeping an eye on Theo. Okay. Typically, after waking up from a nap, during high activity play, like if he's zooming around or running around, or drinking and eating, puppies will have to go within 15 to 30 minutes. Okay. If you see them wake up from a nap, it's almost immediate that they'll have to go. So I let owners kind of play that one by ear, right? Because if he's napping right after like you let him out, maybe he naps for 30 minutes and wakes up, but there's an hour and a half before his next outing. I leave it up to the owner to decide to run them out real quick so that they could reset that clock for 2 hours, or to place them into the kennel for an hour and a half so that you're keeping them on a very strict 2 hour schedule. Okay. It's
every time after a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time after a nap, he pees.
He pees?
Like
yeah.
outside, we take him outside though.
Sure. Yeah. And you want to keep doing that. So you either do that, right? Or you go, no, we want to keep them on a strict schedule. So we're going to put them in the kennel. But then people feel bad because they're like, well, the puppy was only out for 30 minutes. And I'm like, well, we're potty training, right? So again, it's personal preference. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong here. So the main thing I care about is making sure that when he potties, it's either outside or it's in the kennel. Okay. Because if he potties in the kennel, that's a learning mistake. Okay, so if the kennel should be just large enough for him to go in and turn around, and we'll talk about that. But if he pees and it's an appropriate size kennel, you'll see him kind of tucked away because it's gross. He doesn't want to get touch it, right? That's what deters him from peeing in the future, and that's what teaches him to hold it for longer. Okay, so mistakes are good, but if he has a mistake within the home where he can pee off in the kitchen and not have to deal with it, that is steps back.
Yeah.
Because dogs are creatures of habit. Question so far?
No, I just to statement is that I guess to our surprise, he hasn't had any mistakes in his crate yet, even overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
not
good.
one.
Yeah.
He
A
really likes
lot
the
of-
carpets and stuff, so we have to roll ours up.
we rolled up our
Yeah.
carpet because
Anytime he
was-
sees a carpet, just goes.
Yes. So that's good. And as we start to push things with the kennel, don't be surprised if you do see mistakes. Okay. They're good. Okay. And actually, if you see that happen, so like let's say at 8 o'clock, or I'm sorry, you took him out at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock you have to kennel him. And in between 9 and 10, he were to pee in the kennel, he'll probably start whining or barking. Most people's inclination is to clean the dog and clean the kennel and let them be free. I wait until the outing time. Okay, because you have to let it sink in that, hey, you're on a schedule and you don't want to do that again because you don't know how long you have to be next to that potty mistake. Okay, and you want to do that now while he's a little guy, because as they get bigger, it's a bigger mess to clean. Okay.
Yeah, now it's like little.
Yeah. And and actually, I'll separate that. I'll wait for when we cover the crate stuff. But definitely don't clean him up, because what can happen is, one, he'll learn, hey, the faster I pee in here, the faster I get to come out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's learning if you'll clean and all that stuff. So I've seen that happen. So then, what was the next thing? You had mentioned something just a moment ago.
The carpets?
Oh, the
Oh,
carpets.
carpet. Yes. Yeah. So with dogs, they don't distinguish between absorbent surface and non-absorbent. I'm sorry. They distinguish between absorbent and non-absorbent, right? So like when I have clients that have like all hardwood floors, all the carpet or soft area rugs, the puppy will pee on, right? And if you're using potty pads, by the way, you want to get rid of those.
We haven't. We tried because my dad's like, oh, just put it there because poor guy. What if he needs to go? Yeah, he tore up the first one. I'm like, yeah, we're done. I'm not even gonna mess with it.
And we heard that it's like not good to use, so we're like, we don't want to like train him to like use that, because then he's not gonna go outside.
Correct, because what happens is you're technically teaching him to go potty inside.
Right.
But also he won't know the difference between potty pad and rug.
Mm-hmm.
He just thinks this is absorbent and this is absorbent. Okay. So yes, in the beginning, to make your life easier, I would suggest you remove any access, remove any rugs, carpets, or anything like that you can in the meantime while you're potty training, because he will destroy them.
Yeah.
Okay, mistakes. Let me think. So we got the schedule. Okay, so for the schedule, it's only when he's awake and active. Okay, so you mentioned overnight he's able to sleep through the night, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's normal. Almost all puppies, even when they come home at eight weeks, are capable of holding it throughout the night. Okay, if you get a puppy or dog like that, and you ever hear him whining in the night, which is kind of out of the blue, chances are he has to go potty. Okay, but when I get puppies that whine in the middle of the night regularly, like they'll wake up at 2 or 3 and the owner will get up and like walk them out, I'll tell the owner, you want to ignore them, because you're creating a habit of having to pee at 2 to 3 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, they're getting it middle of the night all the time to go let the puppy out. So I'll tell them, ignore it, just sleep through the night, expect to get a potty mistake in the morning, but that's what teaches the puppy that, hey, you're not going to be acknowledged, just sleep through. Okay. So overnight, you continue doing what you're doing there. But if you ever get the oddball kind of whining, I would assume he probably has to go. And it's not anything habitual. It's more so it could be diarrhea or something like that. Okay.
I have a question. So if he does it once in a blue moon, can we just take him out?
Yeah.
Because he
Yeah.
probably needs to go. Yeah.
If it's rare, that's fine. But you would note, like, yeah, every night, like at 2 o'clock, he whines.
Yeah.
Then I would say you don't want to take him out, because that's a habit.
He did a few times at the beginning,
think
but he
he
had
did.
to go out, and he hasn't done it in a while.
Yeah.
I think you're fine. Yeah. And so, like, let's say, on Saturday, you're going to step out to run some errands, and you're going to be gone for 4 or 5 hours, right? So if you took him out at 10 and you're going to leave at 11, I would run him out before you leave. Okay. Have him go potty, and then you're gone from 11 to, 3 or 4. That's perfectly fine. So you're breaking outside of the 2-hour schedule, but he's in the kennel. And that's what's going to deter him from pottying, but also teach him to hold it for longer periods of time. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I have another question.
No, go ahead.
So like, let's say we just want to like run out somewhere for like a few hours. Like, how long can he stay in his crate like during the day, like by himself?
So at a puppy his age, if you want to give him a break, probably around the 4 to 5 hour mark is where his cap is right now. But puppies actually learn and mature very quickly. But again, it's just people's soft spot for puppies. And I tell everybody, live your life like you're going to live it in the future. Because like, let's say I had a puppy and I have to leave for 7 hours.
Right.
He'd be crated for 7 hours. And I would just think, I might come back to a potty mistake, right? But again, it's learning for him. So maybe he poops 4 hours in and he's sitting next to it for 3 hours, which is gross. I feel for the guy. But the next time I have to leave for 7 hours, more likely he's going to hold it. Right. So I use those little things to my advantage. But I would say, on average, about the 4 to 5 hour mark is probably where he's at within the kennel. And if the household is like inactive during that time, I mean, he would most likely go into a resting state like he does overnight. So technically, it would be like an 8 hour thing he'd be capable of holding it for.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like you have to come home every 2 hours to come let your puppy out.
Yeah, I know, because I'm like, oh my god, we have to go home because Theo.
No. Yeah, no. Other questions about that?
I guess because I was thinking, I'm like, so we're gonna move in August, so he's gonna be going to work, and I'm gonna be in school, so we're gonna have to leave him for like.
I mean, it's about 8 hours. So right now, I'm a nurse, so I'm working 312s. So usually on the days that we're not home for those long hours, that's when I'll drop him off like by my mom or her mom. But that's going to be switching because I'm going to be switching to like kind of more like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 thing during the week. I guess more like typical. And then she'll be at school. So I guess how do we change our schedule? Because obviously now it's been a little wishy-washy. Of course, we've been home more often. She's doing online school and everything. But I guess with that transition, he'll be about like 6 months, 7 months old at that time.
Sure.
So I guess like how do we kind of prepare for that?
So what I would do is, for example, let's say you're working your 12-hour shifts Monday through Wednesday, right? And you're going to be off Thursday, Friday. That Thursday, Friday, I would take advantage of and replicate a 9 to 5. Where, even though you're home and you're doing, your homeschooling and, you're home just off from work, I would take the kennel, place him somewhere where he'd be the least annoying or the least audible. Because dogs tend to be more demanding when they know people are around. And take the kennel, put in a room where he'd be the least audible, face the opening towards the wall, giving about 6 inches to a foot of space, and then drape a towel or a blanket over the sides, top, and the back to help muffle. So if he decides to bark and like throw a fit, like, hey, I know you're here, the putting him against the wall so that the bark doesn't resonate. Okay. And then the cover is to help kind of just muffle it a bit more so that you can just ignore him. Okay. So if you, let's say you're going to replicate a 9 to 5 and you take him out just before 9 o'clock and then you put him in the kennel and then, he's in there and then you guys are doing your own thing throughout the day. And then maybe like at 12:31, you can come in, let him out, take him for a quick potty break, short little walk, back inside, back in the kennel till 5 o'clock. Okay. So you're just getting them used to the fact of, hey, there's going to be days where you're going to be in here for this period of time. Okay. And don't feel bad because dogs sleep from 16 to 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
All you're doing is confining where he's sleeping, and you're doing it more so for potty training, crate training, and also separation anxiety. And you're getting him used to the fact of you may be alone, or not you will be alone for an extended period of time. Okay. And this is something that I'm stressing with all my clients, whether it's a puppy or an adult dog. I'm telling them, even though you're working from home, take your dog, isolate them away from you, for, a 9 to 5, so that when things go back to normalcy and we can go back to work, it's not that big of a deal. Okay. I had another client that was keeping their puppy, they were kenneling them 9 to 5, but they were keeping them right beside where they work all day. I was like, no. I was like, you don't want to do that. You can do that if you're having to do work from home and the barking's too much, you can't concentrate. As like a middle ground in the beginning, I'll have the kennel there, but I'm very quickly trying to transition to away from me, but I'm only doing it, because I need to get stuff done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when you do this stuff, you want to do it preemptively. So if I know when I crate Theo, if he's going to bother me and I'm not going to be able to do a call or something, I wouldn't put him in the crate, wait for him to be annoying, and then bring him in. I would put the crate in already and then put him in. So you avoid that process, because he'll learn, if I whine long enough, you will put my crate next to you. Okay. And that's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I was thinking of getting him like a playpen or something. That's probably a bad idea, right?
No, the playpen, because potty mistakes. Okay, potty mistakes. And so typically when I get a client with a new dog or a new puppy, I tell them the first year of that dog's life is crated. Okay, definitely when they're gone, overnight is a variable. If the dog can hold it overnight, I don't care about overnight. But definitely whenever they leave, whether it's 15 minutes, 2 hours, crated. For adult dogs, it's because, especially if it's a rescue, they'll tear up the house. And I've had people come home to some like destruction. I was like, that's what you get. And with puppies, it's potty training. And plus he's going to go through a lot of chewing phases he's going to be
right now.
I had one puppy get electrocuted. They didn't die, but they got electrocuted. I had another puppy that did die because the dog walker forgot to crate the puppy, and it chewed a plastic lawn chair, and a strip of plastic punctured the throat and like part of the stomach, and the puppy passed. So
to crate the dog? How do you forget to crate the dog?
So for the first year, whenever you're gone, definitely crate it. If you find, at some point, probably around 6 months, that Theo is great overnight and can be left out overnight without potty mistakes, I have no problem with it. Okay. But definitely when you're gone, you want to use that crate. The other thing is, if there is any stress or anxiety, if there's more space, it kind of allows a dog more room to practice that behavior. Running around, pacing, things like that, as opposed to the crate where they're more confined and the body doesn't have the space to actually practice that behavior, which then reinforces the emotion. But I think your guy's going to be fine. This is all pretty standard puppy stuff. But definitely want to start that 9 to 5 kind of routine now. And then Saturday and Sunday, if you're home, like treat it as days off like you would.
I feel like I could do that when I start school, because I start summer classes and they're from 9 to 5. So I feel like that would be perfect because I don't have to be watching him while trying to focus on class.
Yeah.
That would be a good time to train.
Okay.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Because then sometimes I take exams, sometimes I have to do presentations and I'm Theo's in the background, having Zoomies or something.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then there's and if you can't keep an eye on them because you're too focused on something, then potty mistakes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So weekends. Also, in terms of progressing that schedule, there's 2 approaches. One is every 4 weeks, you just extend an hour. Okay, so you do 2 hours for starting this week, moving forward for 4 weeks, and then you bump them to 3 hours. So then it's an every 3-hour schedule. And then 4 weeks later, another hour. So it's an every 4-hour schedule, right? That's the easiest. The next one is a bit tedious, but it really, it's easier to do for the puppy because it's so incremental. Is that, you would start every 2 hours this week, and then next week it would be every 2 hours, 15 minutes. Then the next week, every 2.5 hours. Then the next week, every 2 hours, 45 minutes. So by week 4, you're on the 3-hour, right? So if you do this with the puppy right at 2 months, it falls in line with their age. And it's easier for them because it's super incremental. as opposed to the jump of an hour.
Yeah.
But then people, how would you say, they're having to keep track, of those 15 minutes that most people opt for the every 4 weeks bump it an hour. But again, no right or wrong. It just depends on how you want to go about it.
Yeah. I think we can probably figure that out.
Yeah.
Every 15 minutes.
But still, every time after he eats, we could take him out 15, 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
Just he usually
Yeah.
goes poop at least
I
30
would
minutes
say,
after.
yeah.
And pee, like, yeah.
And when Theo pees, have you seen if it's mostly yellow? Do you ever see if it's clear or light yellow?
It's usually yellow.
It's usually yellow. There was one time, and it was actually after I reviewed one of your videos that it was like really clear. I'm like, all right, you're cut off until like dinner time or something,
Sure.
Yeah.
What kind of food is he on?
It is Akana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he ever look dehydrated? Like, does he?
What does the dog look like dehydrated? So like tongue out and stuff?
Not tongue out, but like more so when he's given access to water, like he'll like just run to it and just like drink it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has before, don't you think? Like,
Yeah.
because like, I mean, unless it was, I was trying to like cut down his water intakes. We originally left it out, and then he was drinking it every 5 minutes and peeing every 5 minutes, So then I like tried to limit it based on however much he weighed. You recommended an ounce and
Right.
an ounce per pound or whatever.
Right.
And then we went by her parents' house, and they left out water, and he went to drink it like that. And they're like, oh, you're not giving the poor dog water, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
And I'm like, ugh. All right, I'm not even gonna explain myself, just like so.
So, it's possibly the Akana is dehydrating the puppy. Okay, Akana is a really good food, and I actually have another client right now who's doing Zoom sessions, and their puppy's on Akana, and they noted the same thing.
Yeah.
Again, personal preference. I think you're fine considering that you have a good hold on his potty routine. Okay, but what we might find is if we're tightening up the potty routine, that you might start seeing more mistakes, which kind of makes it more evident, like, oh yeah, this is an issue. Because if you take him out whenever he needs to go, there's not going to be a problem. But when you're limiting how many times he goes, you're going to see problems, right?
Yeah.
So the Akana tends to hover around 33% protein, okay? And the reason why I think it's potentially why he's displaying kind of dehydration behaviors is one, the binding process for those foods. There's some kind of sugar that they use, and sugar, of course, dehydrates. The second thing is a byproduct of protein is ammonia. So to flush out the ammonia, you got to drink more water, right? And you won't find anything written on this. This is just something that I've, through research and personal experience, have come across. Is that, of course, it's going to lead him to drink more water, okay? Which is why I asked if it was clear or yellow. So then it's a balance of, how do you say, because I like to be doing the ounce per pound, right? But we don't want to dehydrate him either.
Yeah.
So, accommodate as necessary, but at least you're aware I gave you more water, so you know what to look out for later on when you take him out to go potty, okay? Yeah. As we tighten things up, if you start to see, potty and peeing in the kennel, or, or accidents that you weren't catching before, chances are it's the food. I would recommend if you want to keep them on the food about a couple of weeks to see if we can get that under control. If not, there's a couple of brands that are really good brands that I recommend to people that don't dehydrate puppies. But I know that's Akana, Origin, Instinct, Prairie, From, I believe Diamond, are all foods with very high proteins that I've noticed amongst my puppies. They are dehydrated and drinking a lot of water. And then when I have my clients switch to a different brand of food, it literally within the week is like a 180 fix.
Oh wow! I don't know what you.
I mean, what's some food that you recommend?
I use Signature. There's like 12 different protein bags that they have. It's all life stages, so puppy, adult, senior, doesn't matter. But I would play it by ear. Akana is a very good food. Some puppies can learn to adapt to it. Some puppies can't. It just really depends. Okay, those proteins, those foods, in my opinion, are for dogs that are like are high activity. So like my stepdad has herding dogs. Like he literally herds sheep with his dogs. It's a very like they eat like 8 cups of food after they're done working. Like they burn a lot of energy. That they need those types of foods. For the standard household family pet, like most of their activity is sleeping, maybe an hour walk for the day, and maybe some playing, which is not that much activity that they, in my opinion, don't need that much protein or whatever.
We
Okay.
have another question. He eats his food like so fast. Like
Then
he
he
eats
has,
it in like a minute.
and then he has like hiccups. We've noticed, like afterwards. It seems.
Should we get him a slow feeder or I don't know?
Yeah, you get a slow feeder. If you have a tennis ball, sometimes if you put the tennis ball in the food bowl, because they have to eat around and push around it, that'll slow them down.
So
We've
fast.
tried hand feeding him too once in a while. I don't know. Don't do that.
Yeah, because then he might expect you to start hand feeding all the time.
That's what your mom wanted to do.
Oh man. Good. This is
happened.
I'm gonna send her that. What time? All right, 10:30. I'm gonna send her that.
Yes. I've because people worry about their puppies, and I understand, right? Because they're like, well, what if the puppy doesn't get all the nutrition? I'm like, if they miss a meal or two, they're not going to die. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's against instinct to starve themselves to death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I put food down for a puppy and they don't eat and I give them 5 minutes, I put it up. Okay. And eventually they learn very quickly that's a limited resource.
Yeah.
I better take advantage and I'm going to eat.
Oh my gosh.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're still feeding him 3 times a day. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, 3 times
and
until
we
he's
move
6
on
months.
to like 2
6
times
months.
a day when they get older. 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And then you go to 2, and then at a year you can go down to 1 if you'd like. A lot of people stay with 2 because it makes them feel better.
Yeah, I was like 1.
I don't care. At that point, I don't care. It's again, personal preference. Now, when he poops throughout the day, how many poops are you seeing?
At least like 4.
Yeah, I'd say like 4 to 5 on average.
You may be overfeeding a tad. So the way I can tell is a dog will usually poop the number of feedings plus 1 is a variable. So if you feed 3, I'm expecting 3 to 4. Okay, and if you're getting 4, maybe 5 on a regular, that's most likely a little bit of overfeeding there. How much does he weigh now?
Well, last time we took him to the vet, which was 2 weeks ago, he was 13, and I tried to weigh him like on the scales, and I think he was like closer to 16. But I feel like that their scale and our scale is never like the same,
It's definitely bigger though. So.
Yeah, he's a little bit bigger. I would say around 15 pounds right now.
Okay. How much is he eating a day?
2/3 cup 3 times a day.
2/3. So that's 1.5. So that's like 2 1/3.
So 6/3. I think
I can't do math.
No, that's two cups. I think.
Oh,
so
2 cups.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. 2 cups.
Yeah, because the conversion on the bag is like literally the most complicated thing I've ever had to calculate for some reason.
Sure.
It's like it gives you like, oh, if they're 5 pounds, if they're 20 pounds, if they're 35, and I'm like, well, he's in between there, so that's probably where we're like, it's about that much.
I think he's at 1.5 cups.
Okay, then maybe that's why he's having that extra poop then.
Yeah. So I would put him at 1.5 cups, half in 3 times. 3 times a day, and watch his number of poops, see if they go down to 3, maybe 4, and then that'll let you know if you're on the right feeding schedule.
Wait, I have another question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like make chicken for him and salmon. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. However, don't ever add anything in response to him not eating his food.
Okay.
No, we like mix it with it, not just by itself.
As long as you do it preemptively, it's fine. But again, people feel bad. They see the puppy not eating. Let me put something better. And then he's
I know there's people who like make like crock pots like of food for him and stuff. Like, but then I feel like he's not gonna eat his kibble, right?
Right. I mean, kibble does not taste like human food.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's, the best diet for a dog is raw diet. I don't feed my dogs raw. I feed them kibble. I would feed them raw if I had the capacity to, but I just don't at the moment. Um, but I have no problem with adding stuff in because, one, it gets boring eating the same thing every day. Also, like, we love our dogs. I give my dogs Chipotle. I give them McDonald's. I give them,
Yeah.
I don't eat all the time, but like last night we had Wingstop, give them some fries,
Yeah.
let them live a little, right?
Yeah.
But with puppies, do be mindful of what you give them because since he doesn't have the enzymes to digest all types of foods, he's probably gonna get diarrhea from time to time, right? Which leads me to my next thing is I do suggest you switch your protein every bag.
We have done that. So we had the chicken, the fish, and now we're on the beef one or whatever.
Excellent, yeah. So I usually suggest with puppies getting the smaller bag so they go, a little bit faster. So you're doing a regular rotation.
Yeah.
If you ever find that you feed them something and it's like explosive diarrhea, that's seemingly not getting better within a couple of days, chances are his body cannot handle that protein and just cross it off the menu. Okay, that's just his genetics. Nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But by rotating, you're exposing him to different proteins. He's developing different enzymes, and then when he's an adult, like I could switch my dogs on a dime and not have to worry about are you going to have diarrhea tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my reasoning behind it. I know with my other trainer, I was watching one of her lessons, and she said that dogs get different types of nutrients or things that they need from different types of proteins, or like there was goat milk, and then there was a different type of milk that she gives her dog, and she's like, it just kind of goes to their body, and they take what they need. You're kind of giving them all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other reasoning behind it. But good. Yeah, I have no problem with the chicken or salmon as long as you're adding it in prior. And if you put down the food, because like let's say you do that for 2 weeks, right? And he's like, oh great, I get chicken with my food every meal. And then you're like, hey, we're out of chicken, and you put the food down, he might turn his nose to it.
Yeah, we don't always give it to him, but like I feel like once a week or something, like maybe twice a week. I don't know.
Maybe
Like
3
right now, I
weeks.
don't have anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to give him some stuff.
So then if like say in that instance where he looks at it and he's like, oh, there's no chicken in here, I'm not going to eat it. What do we do in that situation?
5 minutes and then disappears.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Then wait until dinner or the next feeding time.
Yeah, and I don't compensate. So the next meal, I wouldn't put 2 meals. I would just put that 1 meal.
So he learns.
Yeah, because it's like then, oh, if I don't eat that meal, that's gone.
Yeah.
Correct.
How about with water? Should we keep water in at all times, or also just take it out?
Currently, you want to have it down only when he eats, so 3 times a day. The ounce per pound rule. So 5 ounces, 5 ounces, 5 ounces. If you feel like he needs water in between those times, you can always give him a couple of ounces. But at least now you're aware. That's the main thing, is that you're aware, right? Because if it's free water, you don't know when he's drinking. That you don't know when he's gonna have to go potty again.
Right, that's true.
Right.
And obviously, when we're on a walk or something, we could give him water. Yeah.
Correct. Once he's an adult and he's potty trained, you can leave free access to water. Food is always only at certain times, because free feeding will create a picky eater. This is why cats are notorious picky eaters, because everybody free feeds cats. My cat used to eat with my dogs, and he came to every meal and he ate everything. He didn't have his nose at anything. Okay. So we covered potty training, we covered the crate. Is the crate, did you get the one appropriate to him, or did you get like a much larger one?
No, we did. We actually have a family friend who has a lot of rescues, and she gave us like a smaller crate. I don't know how big it is, to be honest with you, but the other one's 36 inches. So we haven't used that because it's obviously huge for him. But this one's probably like 18 or 24 or something like that.
I feel like he fits.
He fits. It's big enough for him to turn around.
See if I have, like, a
Get a picture? No, I don't think so.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, it seems like he fits in it appropriately.
Okay. Yeah, just to be able to go in, turn around, and lay down. Don't worry about the head, because a lot of people feel bad because the dog's like this, right? But the dog shouldn't be standing in the kennel. Like, the dog's going to be resting, right?
Yeah.
So I think
it might feel too big then. But I mean, I guess he'll grow into it.
Yeah, and as long as there's no potty mistakes, I don't care.
Yeah.
If someone stuck their like 10-pound puppy in a 42-inch kennel, they're like, my puppy's never had a potty mistake in the kennel. And I go, all right, I don't care, right?
No, I don't.
Um, but most of the time, it's always we limit the space. So yeah, I think the reason why I was asking was I always recommend that for my puppy owners to get the crate that their dog is going to need in the future, so they don't go through 10 different crates.
Yeah.
They just take up the extra space as needed. So I think you're fine with what you have right now. And then once you feel like he looks like his paws are sticking out or whatever, then I would upgrade to the 36-inch one.
Yeah.
Probably suckable lines, maybe.
Yeah, I think we probably have some time. But do you think we should use like a barrier or something in between to like limit the space in there? Then, like a divider.
If he's not had any potty mistakes, I think you're okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're fine.
he'll get the concept that it's like, oh, this is still my space kind of thing.
Correct. Yeah, if there was potty mistakes in the kennel consistently, I would say you definitely want to limit the space to make it more harder to avoid the potty, right?
Yeah.
But if it's been fine so far, I would leave it as is, and we'll see how he does. And do you put anything under, like a blanket or anything?
A bed.
A bed? What I would suggest.
Take it out though, because it's been like hot. So
Yeah, it seems like either one, he gets hot, or two, he's like laying in the very corner of it, and then the bed takes up the rest of it.
I would take it out. Yep, because he's getting too hot with it. And let's say later on, like in the cooler weather, which at that point he would be potty trained. I don't care personally about stuff in the kennel. The only time I care again is if there's potty mistakes, the bed or blanket, towel acts as an absorbent surface. That it's not as gross as if it were to be a flat, barren, kennel.
Yeah.
I know they make mats now that are cooling mats that kind of always stay cool. That if to kind of help them, make them feel. Yeah, she's on ball with that.
Yeah, like right.
Oh yeah, no, because it does seem like, and
because he has two coats, so he's like hot.
He's a standard Schnauzer.
Gotcha.
That they can get heated up quickly, and it seems like he does. Like,
so you don't know what Theo looks like, right?
Mm-mm. I kept imagining a golden doodle.
He's the cutest.
He is. He's cute. I love Schnauzers. I love the little beards.
Yeah.
He's so
We got his like first haircut, which they're like, oh, do you baby him? I'm like, no, and then they're like, well, he was, nipping at us when we were touching his legs and stuff. And I was like, I don't understand what they're saying, because, if we try to like, pull it, like mess with him a little bit, I don't know. He doesn't seem to be like bothered by it. So maybe he's just being in a different environment. So
yeah, they didn't cut us. They didn't.
Yeah,
cut
they
his
didn't.
legs.
So he had like black fur when he was like puppy, like brand new, and they shaved him on top like a Schnauzer and left the bottom long. So his legs are black and his body's white. It looks crazy. Look at that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So we're like, it was like a shock for us. We're like, oh my gosh, who's
What
this
happened?
dog,
I wouldn't.
Puppy.
So small. So with the groomers environment, and also they tend to talk a lot. They like stuff like that it causes more stress. Like when you see me work with dogs, even aggressive, like highly aggressive dogs, I'm always calm. So that's part of it. So I never take anything that happens like at a daycare or at a grooming facility, or kind of when the dog's not in their element. I take it with a grain of salt, because I'm like, there's a lot of variables there.
Yeah.
But something you could do that would aid with the groomer is, you could just like grab his paws and like kind of handle him, squeeze him, and give him a treat or so, just to kind of desensitize him. That can potentially help him with the groomers get more comfortable.
Yeah.
If they keep having issues with them, I have groomers that I can recommend, that I send all my dogs to, and they're really great. So
cool.
Okay. Other questions?
I don't know, not at this moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's what happens. They just pop up in our head. It's like, hold on, we gotta.
Sure. And what I
The
recommend.
only thing that I want him to work on is like, he's been better with the biting. I want him to like do things like drop it when we tell him to drop it, or stay, or leave it, and things like that. We're still working on that.
So with the obedience stuff, if you go to my channel, I know I have two of them, and if you look up, I know one, it's Wrinkles, It's a bulldog beagle puppy
I think that's the video I watched.
with me, like just luring him around,
Oh
making
no,
him
I didn't see the actual video with him, but I think you do the Zoom meetings with
all the Zoom, correct? Yeah.
I watched that one.
So because he comes to my daycare, and I used him for a video for starting puppy training. And it's a real simple exercise where you're gonna just take, a treat or whatever. And when you do treats, like, like this little piece like this, I take that piece and I break it up.
Mhm.
Okay, so I make one treat like 5 treats, because dogs don't care about the size of the treat; they care about the rate of reinforcement. Okay. Plus, with puppies, they get full really fast. So, I'll take the little treat and I just lure him, making like either shapes where he's following the food. Okay. And you're training that nose to follow scent. And you keep it right next to the nose when you're moving. People tend to move too fast. Okay. Then the dog starts to use their eyes and you want them to use that nose. So I'm always in front of the nose, and you'll see me working with wrinkles, and I'm luring them between my legs, and I'm making like figure 8s and circles and stuff like that, getting them to follow it. I start every puppy with that because it makes future training much easier, because you're teaching them how to use their sense of smell and kind of how to troubleshoot things. And like you might see the dog sit back and kind of like look like, I don't know what to do. So then I'll bring the treat back and get them to stand out of that sit to teach them, like, I need you to keep moving. And that's always my baseline for all my puppies. It's a really good kind of like cognitive development exercise.
Mhm.
And it makes teaching the down command really easy, the sit command, anything that we would use food lures for.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the food-based training, you always want to keep it shorter than the dog's attention span. Okay, so like 3 to 5 minutes. Because even though it's positive and it's, you might see a lot of excitement, eventually they may get bored. And if you train them to the point of boredom every time, they're not going to want to do it. Okay. You always want to leave them wanting more. You always want to end with them still kind of engaged. So if you each did a session of 3 to 5 minutes a day, you would be fine. Okay. When it comes to positive reinforcement, it's good for things you want to see again, but terrible for things that you don't want to see again. Okay, I just want you to keep that in mind. So when we talk about behavior and correcting, like puppy biting and things like that, chewing on furniture and barking or yipping or whatever, people try to use positive reinforcement as a means to teach the dog. Like, for instance, when the dog's not barking, you give them a piece of food. The dog does not connect that. Okay? They don't understand, if I don't bark, I get food. Okay. It's really just, if you bark, there's going to be a consequence.
Yeah.
Okay? That, aversives or consequences are meant to stop things. Okay. So, in the meantime, whenever Theo does anything that you want him to do again, feel free to reward it. So like pottying outside, you can apply food here. And what I suggest is when you take him out to potty, you take him out on a leash. Is he in a yard, or is it like out on the sidewalk?
So right now, yeah, it's out on the sidewalk, but when we move it, will probably be like yard. But
Okay.
right now, it's the sidewalk, and he's learned to go on pretty much concrete. There's not
Good.
much shoot from over here. So
Yes, it's unnatural for a dog to go on concrete. So it's good that you do teach them, because this way, because I've had dogs that went on grass their whole entire lives, and then they're 10 years old, and then the owner moves to like downtown Chicago, and it's just concrete all over the place.
Yeah.
That the dog has nowhere to go, right? So that's good. When you see him sniffing the ground or circling where he's going to go potty, I usually suggest that people repeat the phrase "go potty," or whatever phrase they want to use. I had one family that used the word taser because they had a bunch of young children in the house that would use the word potty, so they didn't want to create some confusion. So the dog doesn't know what taser means. He's just like, I hear taser and then I pee, right?
Yeah.
So this will help in the wintertime when you don't want to be out there with him for a long period of time. You can run him out, say go potty. It won't be, like that, but it'll start to get in the head like, okay, I need to start doing something. Okay. And then once he actually does his business, as soon as he's done, you would immediately reward with a treat and praise, so that he learns like, hey, when I pee outside and poop outside, I get a treat and positive praise. When I go inside, I have to sit next to it for 30 minutes to an hour. It's gross, and that kind of helps clarify the whole potty training process.
Using my hand. Do you have to give a treat every time, like even now after he potties, or can we just give him like positive reinforcement, like "Yay, good job"?
I recommend the treat because it makes it very clear.
Okay.
It's very clear, like, yes, I need you to do that again. Okay, and especially now.
Right, with the treats.
Yeah.
And you can use, I mean, you can even use his kibble if he'll eat his kibble,
Yeah.
if he's got a lot of, if he's got good food drive, I have no problem using the kibble. But with puppies, I do like to isolate, like, if you have cheese sticks, only cheese sticks for when he potties outside. So then he really kind of looks forward to that, like this rumble.
Like a high reward.
What are some good treats you recommend for dogs?
I personally actually don't buy treats. I use human food.
Yeah, like what kind of
That's
human
what we've
food?
been doing. He doesn't even really like the treats.
Yeah.
seems.
Have you ever tried a dog treat?
No.
It's crap, okay? So
I like crap.
Yeah.
my argument has always been, why am I going to pay $8 for a bag of treats that smell like bacon when I can just buy bacon? I can enjoy it too, right? As long as it's the dog, if obviously not allergic to it, isn't having any adverse reactions to it, they're meant to be eating, raw meat and whatever they hunt and stuff, right? But the reason why kibble came about was a cheaper means of feeding a dog. So I have no problem with human food as long as he takes to it well. Cheese sticks are great. They come in different flavors. You got Kobe cheese, you got Swiss cheese, mozzarella cheese, right? Hot dog, deli meat, bacon from time to time, pepperoni. Pepperoni tends to be really greasy though. Meats and cheeses are what I like to use. Some of my clients, their dogs might like apple and stuff, and like that'll be like the dog's crack,
Like blueberries.
Does he?
Yeah, I give him blueberries.
Oh, really?
Yeah, blueberries. Yeah, you could give a blueberries a treat. Frozen blueberries are great summertime snacks. If he ever looks hot and you want to give him a nice ice treat, like peanut butter put in the freezer, it won't freeze it, but it'll make it cool. Frozen strawberries cut in pieces or berries, a frozen cottage cheese and ice tray thing, and just snap it, a little treat like
We
that.
have like a lick mat, and so we put like peanut butter or banana on it, and we freeze it, and then slap it on the mirror.
Sure, yeah, stuff like that. Nice, like cool treats during the summer. But for immediate rewards, you want something that he can just, eat really quick. So
Right.
blueberries that will fall in line, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's you giving your dog human food as rewards will not create a beggar. Okay, because I think it's a big concern. Your dog will become a beggar if you're eating and off your plate while he's looking at you, you give him something to eat. Right?
So we just ignore him when he does that.
Correct. I ignore, and if it becomes a problem, you can correct it, which we'll talk about corrections next time because that's like a whole thing in itself.
Right.
As long as you don't give him food when he's like begging you while you're eating and stuff, like you're not going to create a beggar. And it can always be fixed. It's an easy thing to fix if that happens. I tend to, whenever I apply human food to my dog's bowls, is always when I'm prepping the bowl. Okay, so if I eat my food first and I have leftovers and I go and make their food, that's when they would get it.
Right.
Not, of course, if they don't eat their food or if they're asking for it. And so I had my chow mix was like notorious. So I hate wasting food. So I would always put my leftovers in my dog's kibble. So they might get like 2 weeks of human food, right, in their kibble. And then I'd run out finally, and then I would put the bowl down, and my pit bull and my chihuahua would eat no problem, but my chow would come and look at me and kind of like flip me off and like walk away, So I would just put her bowl up. I'm like, all right. And she would go up to 5 days without eating.
Wow.
And then finally on the 5th day, she'd be like, all right, fine, I'll eat, and she didn't lose drastic weight or anything. Like dogs are really good about taking what they need. So I have no problem with it. YOLO, right?
Yeah.
As long as he has no adverse reactions, I have no issues. But I take advantage. Use them for rewards, things that you want to see. Use them for your training sessions, and then you'll be perfectly fine.
Cool. Yeah. What was I gonna? He doesn't really bother us when we eat. It's almost like he does his own thing or something.
Mhm.
There was only one time.
Sometimes. Like,
Yeah, there was
rarely.
only one time. Or actually, this is what I'm worried about is when if my grandparents come over, my grandpa's really bad at that. So I'm like, oh boy, I might have to, retrain him or whatever. But for now, he's been okay with that.
Yeah. So how that would end up working out is dogs are 3 to 4 year old children. Okay. And even growing up, I remember if my mom tried to discipline me in front of my grandma like, no. Like, he's just a little kid, leave him alone, right?
Yep.
So I learned I could get away with more stuff around grandma.
Mm-hmm.
But if grandma wasn't around, it was just me and mom or dad, that wasn't the case, right?
Yeah.
Your dog is the same way. Okay. So if grandpa comes around and is feeding him off his plate and you try to stop and grandpa overrides you, Theo will learn that, okay? But it won't transfer to you. And if it does, once you address it, Theo will learn, okay, mom and dad, I can't beg for food, but grandpa, I definitely can. Okay.
That happens with kids.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
Mom says nothing to grandma.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, we're not that different, us and dogs, except that we can see past, present, future. We have a complex language and we have imagination, right? But they get nervous, we get nervous. They get scared, we get scared. They get aggressive, we can get aggressive, things like that. Primitively and instinctually, we're driven by the same things. And it's opportunistic behavior, right? So that's why it's, growing up, because you were like, yep, with grandma, we learn these things. They're patterns, right? So, and you'll start to see this with your dog, like, how do you say, these kind of opportunistic behaviors when certain people are around, because he knows you can get away with it. It is what it is. If you really don't want it to happen, you do have to lay down your foot, right? And be like, no, grandpa, don't give him anything, right?
Yeah, have fun with that conversation. Trying to explain to grandpa, like, no.
Do a Zoom with grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not going to hurt. It happens a lot. Down the line, the main things I'm always worried about are separation anxiety and aggressive behaviors are usually the two things, and more so aggression. Like, people, that's the one thing that people don't want is aggression, right? If your dog's not aggressive, your dog's a good dog, even if they have separation anxiety and all that other crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've had dogs tear up homes and they're not aggressive. And the owner's like, they're such a good dog and they're so good. They just tear up my house when I leave. I'm like, that don't sound good to me.
Yeah.
But it's not aggressive, right? So on the grand scheme of things, as long as we don't see those two things, I think you're fine. If that happens, no big deal. Again, it can always be addressed if it starts to leak over to you guys. So next class, we most likely talk about corrections, reviewing what we covered this week. Feel free in the meantime to go on YouTube, search up positive reinforcement puppy training.
Yeah.
Using food, and you can't screw your dog up using food. Okay. Yeah. And then typically by the third class is when I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna start either tweaking or critiquing what you're doing, fine-tuning the training that you have been doing, and then teaching you kind of the realistic expectations of what food training can do, because it's a very low ceiling. Isn't really effective in real life when there's other dogs and peoples and scents and birds.
Oh,
and squirrels.
Yeah, so we've been having a problem with like walking them because it's obviously we live in the city right now, and there's just so many distractions. It's like he just like will sit there and he just
Look
doesn't
around.
want to move.
He
Yeah,
sees
look
a bird.
around.
He sees a dog.
Looks here,
starts
looks
running.
there. The bus makes a noise when it drives by.
What I would recommend is that you pick up what's called a gentle eater. You can get them on Amazon. They're like $15-25. It should come with a DVD. I recommend watching it. It's a pretty good DVD when we're for puppy stuff. And it'll teach you how to acclimate him to the gentle eater. It goes around the muzzle. Okay. So I would suggest buying one he would grow into, so that he doesn't go to like 4 of them. And I only use this up until 6 months. And after that, we'll talk about more advanced training and whether or not it kind of fits in your scope of what you need for your dog. But the Gentle Leader will help give you a lot more control. If he's trying to like eat a cigarette off the ground, when you pull it, it's going
All
to,
the time.
yeah, you have immediate access to remove him from that object. You might see them kind of resist it. So definitely, I would say pick one up. They're good for puppies under 6 months. And they're good even after 6 months. But for me, a well-trained dog is a dog that will come to me no matter what's going on. I don't care if we're at the dog park. I don't care if it's the dog beach. I don't care if it's chasing a squirrel, right? But that's a different level of training. With food-based training, if you're calling him and you're waving the chicken and he's like, no way, this squirrel's more rewarding, like good luck winning that argument, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that stuff, but you can pick up the Gentle Leader, watch the DVD, and you can start him during the week. You won't screw him up if he resists it or anything like that. This way you can start making that progress.
Cool.
Okay?
All right.
Anything else?
I think we just have to reschedule one of the appointments.
Yeah, it's like in 2 weeks or something. Do we talk to you or Maria about that?
Maria.
Okay.
Yeah. So she handles all the
a
schedule.
reminder like that week or something.
Excuse me?
She just said like a reminder like closer to that week.
Yeah, she'll just move it, and it's not a problem.
Cool. How long or how late do you do the trainings and stuff, or like how early to how late? Or just
Typically, it's I think between 9 and 4 at the latest. 4, because if I have pickups and drop-offs, it's usually 7 to 9. I'm doing the drop-offs or pickups, and then 4 to 6 I'm doing the drop-offs. And then if we have to do it later, like at 7 p.m. or whatever, it's not a big deal. So yeah, you just let us know.
all right, cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thanks.
You're welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email or anything like that. Otherwise, make a list of questions for the week, and then we'll tackle them next class. Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You
Thanks.
too.
Have a good weekend.